Open your freezer door right now. There's a chance one of these bags is sitting inside it, and you've never turned it around to read the back. Every brand on this list is counting on you trusting the word Australian on the front more than the ingredient list on the back. One of the most famous names in this aisle has a recall most shoppers never heard about. One of the most expensive bags in your freezer barely beats the cheapest one on the shelf. Today, 5 frozen chip brands to stop buying, and 2 that earn their price tag. Here's the standard I'm holding every single one of these bags against. A frozen chip should be mostly potato, cooked in unnamed oil, with almost nothing else riding along for the trip. That's the whole bar, not complicated, not expensive to meet. If you can read the full ingredient list in one breath, that brand is doing it right. If you need a second breath and a third, something is being padded out. So when a brand fails that test, it's not bad luck, and it's not an accident. It's a decision somebody made in a boardroom, not a kitchen, to save a few cents and hope you never flip the bag over. Let's start with the one that annoyed me the most, because it's not even a good shortcut. Number 5, black and gold straight cut potato chips. This is the IGA home brand, the one that doesn't even try to look premium. Plain plastic bag, no crunch branding, no mascot, sitting there at a price that basically says, "We know you're just here for chips." And to be fair, I respect a brand that doesn't dress itself up. Here's where it gets disappointing instead. Testing found black and gold has added dextrose, sugar, specifically to help the chips crisp up and hold that crunch after baking. That's a real technique other brands use too. Except in this case, testers found the chips still didn't crisp properly when cooked, describing the texture as soft instead of snapping, with what one taster called limited flavor. It does come in lighter on sodium than the Coles and Woolworths equivalents, sitting around 29 milligrams per 100 grams. But that's not really the point. The point is, you've got a chip that added sugar to solve a texture problem, and the texture problem is still sitting right there on your plate. That's not a shortcut. That's a shortcut that doesn't even work. You're not saving money on a slightly worse product. You're paying for an ingredient that isn't doing the one job it was added for. That one's just lazy. The next brand dresses the exact same laziness up as premium Australian branding. Number 4, Season's Pride Super Crunch Chips from Aldi. The bag says made with selected Australian potatoes. Crunch-focused name, gold packaging, sitting right next to Aldi's plainer chips, like it's the upgrade you should be reaching for. Turn it over. The ingredient list on this one runs 12 items deep. Modified potato starch, rice flour, dextrin, raising agents, dextrose, maltodextrin, a thickener, and then curcumin and paprika extract thrown in purely to give the coating that golden orange tint you see through the bag window. 12 ingredients for a bag of chips, and that coating comes with a real cost. Sodium sitting around 193 milligrams per 100 grams, several times higher than the plainer chips, one shelf over, with a nutrition score that drops noticeably even though the taste score holds up fine. Here's what that actually means for you standing in the aisle. The crunch you're tasting isn't coming from the potato underneath. It's coming from a coating engineered, more like a snack food recipe than anything resembling a vegetable side dish. The front label sold you selected potatoes. The back label is basically a starch and color science project, with potato riding along underneath it. That's not a potato chip anymore. That's a potato-flavored delivery system for starch and salt. That's a filler problem, plain and simple. The next Aldi bag has a bigger question waiting. What's actually in the oil? Number 3, Season's Pride French fries and Crinkle cut chips. Also Aldi. Same brand, different problem, and this one's sneakier because it hides in plain sight. Aldi leans hard on made in Australia language across its whole chip range, and canola oil gets named clearly on several of those bags. But these two specific products don't name canola. They list plain vegetable oil with no source attached to it at all. Testing flagged that unnamed vegetable oil could be a palm oil blend, and both of these products came back with noticeably more saturated fat per 100 grams than the average across the entire category tested, more than double the group average, in fact. Here's the thing about vegetable oil showing up on an otherwise detailed Australian label. It's usually the exact spot where a brand doesn't want to tell you what it's actually frying your food in. If it were canola, they'd print canola, the same way they do everywhere else on their own shelf, in their own range. Leaving it vague isn't an accident on a label this specific about everything else. If they wanted you to know, they'd name it. That's a budget brand being deliberately vague. The next one isn't vague at all. It's just charging you double for a version of the same letdown. Number 2, Birds Eye Golden Crunch Chips. This is the bag shoppers trust without thinking twice. Birds Eye has been named Australia's most trusted frozen food brand. It topped blind taste tests against every major competitor on the shelf. It's the bag that looks like it belongs in a proper kitchen, not just a freezer. And on flavor, fair enough, it genuinely delivers. But here's where that trust starts costing you real money. Golden Crunch runs close to 64 cents per 100 grams, compared to roughly 38 cents for a basic 2-ingredient home brand chip, sitting one shelf down. That's close to 70% more for what's supposed to be the same vegetable. For that kind of premium, you'd expect a noticeably cleaner ingredient list, less processing, something concrete to justify the gap. Instead, testing found Birds Eye actually runs higher in sodium than several of its cheaper rivals, and that extra salt is a real part of what's boosting the flavor score you're paying extra for. You're not buying a meaningfully cleaner chip when you grab this bag. You're buying salt, wrapped in a name people already trust by default. You're not buying quality here, you're buying the reputation, and the reputation costs extra on every single trip. That's disappointing enough on its own. But the biggest name in this entire freezer aisle just had something happen that most shoppers never even heard about. Number 1, McCain. This is the name most Australians think of first the second someone says frozen chips. Decades on the shelf, a factory history running back to Smithton, Tasmania, the kind of brand you buy without reading a single word because you've bought it 100 times already. In 2024, a batch of McCain branded imported products, things like aloo tikki, masala fries, chili garlic potato bites and pops, and several veggie patty and nugget lines sold through Indian grocery stores across New South Wales, the ACT, Queensland, Victoria and South Australia, with expiry dates running up to August 2025, were pulled from shelves by the importer over potential ethylene oxide contamination. I want to be precise here because it matters. That recall was for a specific imported product line, not the everyday straight cut or crinkle chips sitting in your local supermarket freezer. This wasn't your regular bag, but the name printed on that recalled packaging was still McCain, and that's a fair reminder that even the biggest brand in the aisle isn't automatically clean in every corner of its range. And separately, blind taste test panels have ranked McCain's pub-style, extra crispy range dead last against every competitor tested, scoring around 4 out of 10, with tasters describing an unusual, almost sourdough-like flavor and a peppery aftertaste nobody was expecting from a plain chip. The biggest name in the freezer aisle is still just a name printed on plastic. Check the bag before you trust it. So if none of the big familiar names are automatically safe, what actually is? Here's where the list flips, because not every brand in this aisle is playing the same game, and the next two prove it. Same standard as before, mostly potato, one named oil, and nothing hiding behind a color or a coating. Safe pick: Coles French fries and straight cut chips. This is the cheapest looking bag in the whole freezer section, the one you'd walk straight past assuming it's the compromise option you settle for when money's tight. It's actually the opposite. The ingredient list reads 97% potato and 3% sunflower oil. 2 ingredients, full stop. No added colors, no gums, no vague vegetable oil hiding what it's fried in. Gluten-free by ingredient with no allergen warnings attached, sitting around 38 cents per 100 grams. After 5 brands doing gymnastics to justify 12 ingredient coatings or an oil they wouldn't name, this is what a brand actually being honest with you looks like on paper. That's not the bargain bin, that's the single most honest bag in the entire freezer aisle. Safe pick: Woolworths Essentials straight cut and French fries. No mascot, no crunch branding, no premium language printed anywhere on this bag. Just plain packaging that looks like it's trying less than everything else sitting around it in the freezer. And that's exactly why it earns its spot here. The ingredient list stays close to just potato and a named oil, nothing dressing it up for the camera, and it's consistently scored among the highest nutrition marks of any chip in the entire category, while sitting near the very bottom of the price range. Worth checking the current pack when you're in store, since ingredient lists do shift over time, but the pattern with this line has held: less marketing, more actual potato. The brand with the least to say for itself on the front of the bag has the most to actually show you on the back. Here's the pattern once you strip all 5 problem brands down to what's genuinely sitting in the bag. Cheap doesn't automatically mean honest. Black and Gold proved that with sugar, that doesn't even do its job. Australian printed on the front doesn't mean simple on the back. Aldi proved that twice over. Once with a coating built like a lab project, once with an oil they flat out wouldn't name. Trusted and expensive doesn't mean cleaner. Birds Eye proved that with salt wearing a reputation like a uniform, and even the biggest, most familiar name in the whole business isn't above a recall notice most shoppers walk past without ever seeing. McCain proved that too. The 2 brands that actually held up were the ones that stopped trying to impress you and just told you plainly what was in the bag. And once you start checking chips this way, you genuinely can't stop. The same trick: a vague oil name, a filler-loaded premium range, an expensive brand leaning on salt and reputation instead of ingredients, is sitting in your cereal aisle, your yogurt aisle, your bread aisle right now, waiting for someone to actually flip the bag over. The front label sells you the dream. The back label tells you what you're really buying. So next time you're standing in that freezer aisle on autopilot, don't trust the bag, read it.